Hey guys, Shelby Reed here. I've got Rob Hyder also on the screen. We are here with the Senior Living Experience. And today we really want to talk with you and talk through what are the five first things you should discuss with your aging parents as you're considering a transition or a downsizing move to a senior living community. I know this is a hot topic for a lot of adult children. Rob and I probably at some point are going to be dealing with this as well. And it's just, you have parents, they're living in their homes independently right now. However, maybe you're starting to have some concerns with their independent, or I should say with their ability to maintain their independence. Are you worried about them driving to the grocery store? Are you worried about them making sure they're getting healthy meals and they're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner? So what we kind of summed up today is really what are those top five things to discuss with them, to help your conversation be successful and productive.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little bit of backstory. So, Shelby, for folks that don't know who we are, Shelby and I run Senior Living Experience, and we've transitioned over 150 folks into senior living facilities in the last 12 months alone. So we've been working with these families in very high level detail, and we're hearing a lot of these same kind of conversations, or I wish I would have conversations come up. So we just kind of wanted to throw this out there and kind of go through some of these steps with you guys. So Shelby, yeah, let's head it off. What do you have on there as kind of the first of the five items?
Perfect. So the first step, this is huge, is start the conversation early. Don't wait for that crisis situation to happen. Don't wait for them to get sick, or don't wait for them to have that injury, where we see a lot of times that's when the conversation starts. In order for this to be, like I mentioned earlier, as productive and an open and successful conversation as possible, we need it to start early in the game. We don't want to be in a stressful situation now bringing up to your loved one that is probably reluctant maybe at first to even consider this move. So let's start it early. Anytime, what we recommend is just open the door, open the communication with your parent, and just start the conversation. And a lot of times people they have a predisposed image of what a senior living is. Most of them think it's a nursing home, and that's just the reality right now in 2020 is that is so far from the truth. So the more information you can show them, that whether it's, pictures, flyers, websites, things like that, that this nursing home in today's age is not even really a word. It's, these
communities, they have so much stuff going on. And to that point, right? So what we see and what we hate to see, but the issues that really start coming up are there's some event, someone, they break a leg, they have surgery and they can't take care of themselves in their home. Or maybe they start having memory issues or whatever the scenario might be. And then it's already a stressful situation, right? And it kind of, either came out of nowhere or progressed very highly in a very short period of time. And now you're saying, okay, well, we have to, mom or dad, they can't live at home by themselves anymore. So they're in, they either go to rehab or they're in some kind of memory care thing, but normally that's for a very short window. And then from that point, if they need to get into an assisted care, a skilled nursing, or a memory care facility, what happens is like those facilities often have they're booked up, and they often have a very short window in which you have to start paying for them, especially in the private pay sector. It's kind of more what I'm talking about, but even a small window. So now you're already in a stressful situation, and you add the very short window of time just increases the stress load and the complexity. So the best piece is obviously to start having the conversation. Just what if something happens to mom? What if something happens to dad? Or, hey, at some point in the future, this is probably going to have to occur. So let's start evaluating the financial situation, all the different steps associated with it, and just have an open conversation, not as if it's going to happen right now or in 6 months, but just what if it happens? What can we do to prepare?
For sure. And I think that kind of leads us into the next step, which is really allowing your parents to take ownership of their current situation. And from our experiences, we really see this happening quite a bit. You know, when we're sitting down and talking with potential new residents of a community, they know that they know that, hey, I'm 75 years old and I'm healthy now, but I'm worried. And a lot of times they won't express this to the family, but they'll express it to an outside party like ourselves, where they'll say, hey, look, I know that I'm not going to stay in this good health forever. And I'd rather be proactive now, be part of the decision-making process. Therefore, when it comes time for me to need that level of care, I'm either already set up for that, or I know what steps I'm going to take. And so a lot of that is, it's hard as a, son or daughter, I know firsthand, to try to tell your parents what to do. And that's one thing we advise everyone: don't tell them what to do. Just
that's step 2, right? Don't tell them what to do.
That's step 2. Just like growing up, even now, if my mom tells me what to do, I'm going to completely do the opposite. So, you got to rework your brain a little bit, and they know, and they're going to take ownership, but let them take the ownership and let them lead the conversation a little bit. And I think you'll be surprised at the outcome.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. So how do you let them take ownership, or how do you bring it up as a talking point, but have them be very involved in it? And it's really just the question of, hey, Mom, like, what happens if this were to occur? Like, how do you see this going? Or what do you think we should do if this occurs? Like, whatever the scenario might be, if you had a major injury and you couldn't take care of yourself at home, or if so-and-so something happens. In the memory care sector, that gets a little bit more dicey if they're already having some of the issues, right? But there are ways around that, and that's probably for a separate conversation here. But it's bringing it up and having the open conversation, not as if, you as the son or daughter or niece or nephew, but not as if you'd already had the conversation with the rest of the family and you're telling them what they need to do. You're saying, hey, what if this were to occur? How would you see this going? And then you can kind of bring up some of the back data that you might already have looked into, but they are part of the conversation and coming up with the solution.
100%. 100% agree with that. And that's such a great step. Number 2 is probably the hardest step, but it's the one that's going to open up the doors to really let the other things happen. So kind of what's our next step after that? The next one would be, as you've had this open conversation, then maybe offer to help. That's when you can kind of offer to be involved a little bit more. I always like to let the aging parent lead a little bit, like we mentioned earlier, but ask how you can help. Can you set up appointments at communities? Can you help take over their finances? That's a big thing, but a lot of people really don't want to do it when they get a little bit older, and they don't really care, to be honest, is what we've heard. So offer to help that way, and then that way you can kind of help lead the direction a little bit, because you'll know the prices, you'll know their financial situation a little bit better, and you'll be able to make suggestions and help guide them. And again, I just can't reiterate enough that the seniors we work with, they are realistic and they know what's going on, but they really do want help, and they're over some of this, and they're done doing it. So as long as you can just do it in a positive and not overwhelming way, I think we've seen them be very receptive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the finances piece is a very important kind of point on this, right? So it's the sooner that, you can get involved and help with the finances, or at least start seeing what their financial situation looks like, what amount of income they might have coming in from Social Security, a pension, any kind of retirement income, 401ks, whatever the oncoming income looks like that's coming in, right? And then if there are, any other kind of ongoing financial pieces is key. But then secondarily, how much obviously they have in the bank, or what an investment portfolio might look like, or so on and so forth. the
Sure.
sooner that you can start getting involved in that and asking questions and having an idea of that picture, even if you're not going to be managing it for them, just having an idea of what the picture looks like so that you're more prepared when that time does come. When the time does come that they have to go in, about what they can afford, or that if the investment portfolio is X, that would cover, X number of years of that facility in addition to the ongoing income that's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Things of that nature.
Sure. And then step number 4 would be offer to take them on a tour of a community. Again, a lot of people are reluctant to even take that first step. And that is a good first step, is just bring them to a community. It doesn't have to be, one that they think they are going to move into, but just bring them through one and let them walk through, do a tour. The people working at these communities are more than happy to walk you through. It's a 30 or 45 minute meeting, and you can make it as brief or as long as you'd like. And I think the potential residents we work with, they really need that push to get in the door. And once they're there and they get walking through the communities, their eyes are open a lot more and the conversation will begin to change. And you'll kind of see them, not be so guarded and realize that these aren't what they thought they were in their mind. And they actually might like this. The amenities are so vast that a lot of people don't even, they're shocked that someone's going to come into their apartment every day and clean their apartment, and they don't have to worry about that. So, until they see that, it's a made up notion, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. And going into one helps them open their eyes to like what the communities look like in relation to what they might think that they are, right? But then in addition to that, like after they go to one, go to 2 or 3 or 4, because they all have different cultures and different feels, different levels of activity.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and different levels of management and care. So really understanding kind of what variables that your mother or father, what they want from the facility, what are their hot items that they're really interested in, and what doesn't matter as much. One of the items that come up a lot is food quality, right? We hear that all the time. Like they want to go and have a couple meals there and make sure that they don't get in and they just don't like the food. That's a big sticking point for some folks.
Right. It's honestly more than what you would think. But it's huge. And the food preparation at these communities blows me away every time we go in for an event. It's, I know at least multiple of our communities, they even advertise that everything is made in-house. They don't, they make their own ranch dressing. They make their own Caesar salad dressing. Like they are not buying it at the store. So it's unreal.
Yeah. And, and if you're going to be there for a long enough time, that's a very, very big variable. So yeah. And sure. One that before we really started getting involved in this and talking to so many folks, I would not have thought that it had such a big role. It was shocking.
Seniors want good food, happy hour, and that's really wrapping it up in a nutshell.
Yeah, some activities. Well, cool. So that was item number 4.
Yep. So number 5. Yep. Just to kind of wrap, bring it full circle is, acknowledge their feelings, but then also know that it might be beneficial to you to bring in an outside third party, someone like ourselves, someone at the communities. We specialize in this exact instance, but know that there's other people you can bring in too. But sometimes you might just need to bring in that third party to have the conversation also. And that's okay. And we deal with that a lot, and we work through those situations a lot as well, because again, it just goes back to one of our other comments that a lot of times you need that third person just to help facilitate the conversation and be that outside opinion.
Yeah. And especially like, if mom or dad doesn't want to be told what to do and they feel like at any point that they are, or there are specific points or items that are a little bit more contentious or sticking points, right? You can kind of be like, oh, well, what do you think, Susie? Or what do you think, John, as this third party, and kind of go through some of the steps and like, oh, and they can say, well, yes, I understand what you're thinking, but here's how best practices are followed, and here's how it would typically work, so that you can kind of lead the conversation in the direction of kind of how it will have to be at some point, because they're pretty standardized ways that senior living facilities work and whatnot. But no, I think that's exactly it. Having that third party and sometimes helps. And then also, like, as you're getting through some of the variables that are a little bit more sticky or a little bit more sensitive to discuss, having that third party can be a pretty good tool to help the conversation along and keep kind of moving forward. And one of those, as comes up a lot, is what happens to, like, their existing home. What do they do with it? And that's not only sticky amongst, maybe one or two of the children that are talking to mom or dad, and mom and dad, but it might be the other siblings or the other folks that are involved. If the whole family grew up in that home, it's going to have more significance than it would otherwise. If, maybe some of the siblings or one of the siblings maybe still lives in the home, and they don't want to have to move out. So just those are some of the more sticky pieces that can kind of come up, and it's better to discuss and kind of get ahead of.
Absolutely. These are all great things. And I hope this helped you as an adult son or daughter. And obviously we could elaborate many more on these top 5, but we really see these as the top 5 things that you should focus on, or direct your conversations and communications with your aging parent if you're considering that transition to a senior living community.
Absolutely. And for more tips or more information on any of these senior living kind of hot points, obviously follow the YouTube page here, and you can check us out on our website, seniorlivingexp.com, seniorlivingexp as an experience.com. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Until next time.